Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on 3D Experience Widget Fundamentals. This is Mark Young, and my co-presenter, Ashwani Sharma, will be presenting this topic. Ashwani, please move to the next slide. So a quick overview of XLM Solutions. XLM Solutions is what we consider a complete PLM solution provider, where we're providing expert skills around the following products of 3DEXPERIENCE, Innovia, both the cloud and on-premise solutions, SolidWorks PDM, Innovia Smart Team, which is a legacy PDM PLM system, Exalead and Exalead One Part and its various search capabilities, and then Iris and the Iris Innovator Solutions. For those of you that do not know of us, we've been around since 2005 and bring many years of expertise in the PLM industry, both around our business and technical expertise. We pride ourselves of being highly respected and can provide tons of references both for customers and within the Dassault, SolidWorks, and Iris ecosystems. We are both a Dassault business partner and a SolidWorks certified professional service company. And what that means is, not only can we sell software on the Dassault side, but on the SolidWorks side, we are recognized and can provide professional services on their products. And we really dedicate ourselves to quality, making sure we stay up to date on the latest technologies, the latest best practices, trends within the industry, etc. So we really can provide, all aspects of PDM and PLM implementations, everything from discovery workshops, general implementations, customizations, which we'll be talking about a little bit when we talk about customizing widgets, integrations to other systems like ERP, data migrations, and training support, and obviously provide tons of technical expertise in other databases and operating systems, programming languages, and Innovia customization. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ashwani to provide the majority of the presentation on widgets within 3DEXPERIENCE. So with that, Ashwani, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Hi all. I am Ashwani Sharma, and I will be taking it ahead. So moving on, we would be talking about widgets, dashboards, and how to customize widgets. So before that, we should first understand the 3DEXPERIENCE platform and how the things are connected. So as we see here, everybody knows that 3DEXPERIENCE platform has a compass and few quadrants. So like we see there are different kind of services: passport, compass, web messaging, 3D space, then 3D play, 3D drive on the cloud side, and some virtualization features, enterprise modeling controls. Everything is embedded into a single platform. That's why it is called a 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And multiple things are being embedded into the same. As and when things are coming up, more new enhancements and things are being added to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Everything is linked through a reverse proxy layer, whereas these individual servers would be holding kind of 3D passport, or 3D SMART would be on a different server, messaging was different, so they all would be connected. But to the user, it would be kind of a single platform or a single UI being utilized. So moving on, so it's a very basic introduction to widgets. On the right side, we have few widgets. If we see, there are kind of widgets which are showing some weather, then some music, some notes are there. So what are widgets? So widgets are relatively a simple and easy to use software application or any component of a big software application. They could be made of one or more different software platforms and many data sources linked through widgets. For example, this particular widget is fetching data from the weather's information. This is fetching from a different data source which shows you the music. This is coming from the camera feeds, and obviously like different kind of feeds are there. Like we see here, some feeds are there maybe from a different particular system. Again, these are kind of lightweight HTML components which are being scripted. The recent script languages, new script languages are being used. And as I told you, the data can be derived from multiple sources, and there are a few examples. So now coming the main thing, like widgets which specific to 3DEXPERIENCE platform. These are again specialized applications which are developed using latest web standard technologies, which are kind of HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. In terms of features, they are very resizable, movable, configurable, shareable, and removable from dashboard. As we see, things are more progressing towards the 3D dashboard. So as widgets and things are getting progress, and widgets are really customizable also. They are fast in performance. The reason being is UI loads the element only once. It doesn't load the elements again and again. Only the data keeps on changing and gets reloaded multiple times. So being said that UI element doesn't load every time. If you try to understand, the UI elements are based on the web standard technologies, which are like loaded onto the client side. Indirectly, I mean to say, on the server side, only the data fetches and the response and request goes for data fetching. And on the client side, only UI components are there. Also, 3D dashboard can draw from internal and external sources, as I told in the previous slide also. So like 3D swim, 3D space, or some internal server kept within the company premises can be an internal content. Then external content would draw some applications through YouTube or some weather feeds, weather forecasts, or some, it could be third-party applications embedded into our dashboard. So coming up, how the 3D dashboard is designed. UI is designed primarily using JavaScript, UWA applications, APIs, and HTML5. UWA is also a recent technology which DS has started using. Business logic would majorly be still defined in the GPUs, web services. In terms of web services, DS specifically uses REST web services in the newer versions. As I told that UI is primarily defined using JavaScript and HTML, so they are lightweighted and processed on the client side. UI elements are loaded only once with the initial datasets, and in the subsequent transactions only they are refreshed and UI elements do not change. So the operational cost and the operational is light on the server side, which means we are trying to utilize by converting our things to the widgets and using the dashboards. We are trying to utilize the client's environment, client machine also, which indirectly reduces the load on the server, and servers can more freely give higher response in less period of time. So widgets could be displayed in two particular ways, and the two most common are, it could be kind of one widget in a window, or many widgets can be fitted in a window, in a single window. So something to note here is 3D dashboard widgets are standalone and they are independent of other widgets. They are mostly hosted on the 3D dashboard because they are trusted widgets. You cannot hold the dashboard widgets outside of 3D dashboard. Also, we cannot give a browser URL in the specifically in a browser and cannot execute the widgets. So by saying this, I mean that you cannot give a source URL of an in the web browser of a widget and try to use that widget. That is not possible because they can be embedded into 3D dashboard, and then you can use kind of a standalone application or a widget. So guys, here I present you, this is the 2021 X version, which is an example of one widget in a window. So here we see like there are some, this is a single widget loaded here, and on the left side there are few communities and conversation, and data is being loaded here. On the top there are different tabs which we'll discuss. This is an example of again 21x. There are many widgets in a single window. This is a widget where the scroller keeps on changing the images, and multiple widgets here. So in all there are kind of 5 small widgets onto a single dashboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 of can be kind of an internal widgets, or some can be connected to external applications. Some can pull data sources from internal applications. Moving on, so we would briefly categorize this for our viewers. We would like to show what are the various components on this dashboard. So at the top we see the my first dashboard. This is the name, and so with this dashboard is selected. In the bottom, this is a tab selection and tab name. You can double click this and rename a tab, or you can drop down this symbol and rename as per your convenience. This is a 3D search toolbar, and these are the 6W taggers and the various standard information, the plus sign and all. This window is also again presents 4 widgets. So this is kind of a multiple widgets embedded into a single dashboard, and we can see all 4 hold a different informations. So talking about the architecture, saying that this is a widget or a dashboard screen. Dashboard UI elements are loaded only once, and then the data exchange happens directly from the backend. Backend would typically comprise of your MQL, JPO, business logic, and additionally REST web services would be there, and the matrix kernel which interacts. Very brief architecture. So how we learn about the widgets, like we can follow this support site and developer assistance from 220x and 21x version. I have given the links. So you need to go into developer assistance and various categories we need to explore, and this is how we can get started learning. Or like there are some references we see tag navigator. These are some widgets your applications and APIs given by the OTP widgets. We also have some customized widgets, which we will be showing you in the later. So talking about the skills required, that like HTML, JavaScript, UWA, and CSS. The concepts of modules and AMD. AMD is asynchronous module definition, which is highly used in developing the widgets and dashboards. To understand the design pattern, we also need require.js, because we will see in a later example, require.js is the main thing what we use to develop the widgets. And only jQuery and require.js framework is supported by Dassault systems in their dashboard. But still externally we can customize, we can use Java applications, JavaScript libraries, like more kind of JavaScripts are there. We can embed them and use them. But still DS would support you the required JS framework, and we would recommend to use the required JS framework as well. So the technical architecture of 3DEXPERIENCE, as we know that the clients would be connecting from various web browsers, and they have an URL which is typically starting with HTTPS, then the company name, server name, and this URL typically on the company side or the reverse engineering side, if we go, it passes through a firewall service and the reverse proxy layer. Reverse proxy layer would be configured with your SSL keys and some security settings, which sorry. So the reverse proxy layer would be taking care of getting the request from the actual server, which compromises of your multiple applications, 3D passport, dashboard, space, swim, everything. They would be connected with HTTP layer, and the actual reverse proxy would respond back to the clients. Client never feels that multiple servers are connected in the background, because all reverse proxy would be handling, and reverse proxy could be of hardware reverse proxy or a software reverse proxy that would be handling it. So saying that reverse proxy is there, and again, I quote an example here. There are various users connecting through an internet layer, and we talk about reverse proxy. Then this reverse proxy and our various servers are into an internal network. So where about the security comes into picture? We should also understand that various applications are connected through reverse proxy. Passport will 3D Passport will act as a centralized authentication service, which will provide applications to 3D space, dashboards, SWIM notification, and everything else. A reverse proxy is a server which retrieves the resources on behalf of a client. So, and it can retrieve the resources from multiple sources. So client never feels that the resources are different. It would still be like it is the same resource, but this is the benefit of reverse proxy. It proxifies your request and everything, and denial of service attacks, DOS attack or DDoS attacks are prevented by a reverse proxy. If more reverse proxy is required, so typically some companies would prefer hardware reverse proxy like F5 balancer and load balancer, all those. Otherwise, simple kind of reverse proxy based on Apache software proxies are massively used. It also takes care of malware and initiating takes down. And a proxy also distributes the loads on a different server. For example, a big company would utilize multiple 3D space, multiple dashboard due to the huge quantity of people being used. So reverse proxy would take care. So I would say that reverse proxy definitely provides a very thick layer of security between your external and internal network, as well as distributes the request coming in and data sources being pulled. Moving on. So we would quickly see some hands-on on to the widgets which we have customized recently, and it would generate an auto number it would be generating from various types. So I would show you a short demo and we come back to the PPT again. So guys, this is our widget, and this is an auto number. There are types, and these are two different views. For example, we can add here, and we can select here auto number. I have dragged them twice just to show. We see fit. So as I mentioned, there are independent requests being floated from each widget. So if you click type part family, it will give you the next auto number is in the system is 73. Okay. Now if I click part family here, it would give the next number 74. So it again proves us that there are different requests going on from each widget, and each widget functions differently. If I come back and run here, obviously the next number would come. For example, if we want to see for the change request, and if you want to refresh the whole screen, you can independently refresh a widget, or if you want to refresh both the widgets, so you can refresh both at a time. Again, you can try to see for a different number. Thus, this is how the widgets can be used. This is a very simple basic example what we built on this. So we return back to our PPT. So we showed you an example how this auto number would be configured, would be running. Let's see about some technical stuff, how these are made into the system. So the tools which would be required for JavaScript coding would be like editors, Notepad, Eclipse, Visual Studio Code can be used. For debugging, you see here a window like F12 key and Control Shift key can be used to see what is going on. For Java code, Eclipse IDE or everything can be used. For checking your web services, you can use REST client for Firefox or Postman, or there are various apps for Chrome being there. What about the source code? Source code would be kept in a repository where we have 3D space installed, and the 3D space Tomcat is there, 3D space and web apps. Within the web apps, we prefer to keep our new folder. These are in the left side. I show you the OTP widgets which are there. For custom widgets can be created in the same manner, and for the on-premises environment and quick test, you can keep the folder here by building a new folder. But the advantage of on-premises widgets are they are highly customization efficient than 3D space, and they can use REST web services also, the REST framework, which these provide. We can extend those framework and do some customization, and maybe we can more leverage and utilize the capabilities of dashboard embedding with the widgets. For customer deployment, the widget should be deployed in an external web server, because when you do a deployment or you do a redeployment, that's where you lose your customization. So it can be placed into an external web servers. So widget source code can be deployed even in a web server as long as 3D dashboard Tommy can access it. It can also be customized in a way that a different repository can be placed on a web accessible repository and can be checked. And source code can be placed there and checked. Check-in can be done there so that the web apps can run. So how to make the dashboard and how you create widgets, add the widgets like the one which I showed you very recently. So they can be accessed from 3D dashboard by config additional apps. You go to the platform manager management and click additional apps in the members tab. When you click onto the additional app, there would be this screen opening up. You write the short name or a long name provided here. This is long name is not mandatory. Then you choose the compass. As soon as you choose the compass, this gets highlighted. If I see the node quadrant, my collaborative and social apps, if you see here, and you can drag and drop an image here. Instead of this, that new image will come, and autogen short name would be preferably shown here. And you choose the type as widget, and this is our URL where we have placed this. And source code, this autonom, I'll just show you again. Autonom is an folder created here, and an HTML file is there, which will show you in the next slide. They are linked and say save. Within a few seconds, when you refresh your dashboard, you can click your dashboard, create an empty dashboard. We said widgets, and onto drag, as I show you, drag and drop, or you can select and run it directly. You can rename and do many changes here. So widget, this is a sample coding. This is the first piece of code, which is the HTML. Typically, we require some includes JS, and as I told you, required JS is the key thing what we are in. We are using this autonom our customized widget. So the events are loading, and then you see some more definition of how it's defined, and we are using JSON in the background. So to contact to our REST web service. REST web service returns back a JSON, which UI parses and shows you the result. So summarizing the things, I would typically summarize the advantages of using the widgets. They are lightweight, as we told, and they are script-based applications and loads faster. Multiple data source can be plugged in and configured into the same dashboard and showing multiple information. This is the biggest advantage. They are interactive in nature and customizable in nature, which makes more effective to use widgets. And specifically the ones which we have shown you right now, the on-premises, there can be many possibilities done onto the on-premises, customizing them, leveraging the package, and doing more of the customization. Because as 3D experience grows more, we see that less of 3D space will be used in the coming future. They are also configurable and easy to manage. As I told you, client processing power will be used, so workloads of the server will be reduced, leading to improved performance, because the UI components, everything loads onto the client side. You also have an attractive, lightweight, and user-friendly interface, because CSS, HTML5 are being. And finally, JSON is being used for data exchange purposes in the background, and ability to create custom and more specific widgets of these there are some like business requirements, so we can easily customize that. So handing over to Mark.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for that attending that presentation. Hopefully, you got some useful information out of it. But definitely, we're here to open it up to any questions anyone has. Please type it into the chat window, or we can unmute you as appropriately. This was a high-level overview of the widgets and what can be done within 3DEXPERIENCE. Obviously, here's our contact information for if anyone wants to follow up or go into a little bit more detailed analysis of how you can create your own widgets, make use of the 3D dashboard, or use the out-of-the-box widgets coming from 3DEXPERIENCE. But with that, I'll open it up to questions. And it looks like one question is, how long, on average, would it take to create a widget? Ashwani, I don't know if you want to give some insight into that.
Yes, Mark. So typically it depends on the business logic or what kind of information we are trying to build up. For example, if we are trying to fetch some data from our 3D space database, so typically on how the view, what kind of view we want to present to the user, it typically can take a week. Developer efforts a week, and then I think a week for the basic widgets. Then totally depends on the depth of the customization to a month also,
Yep.
considering the deployment time period and many more things.
Right. No, agreed. The time to create a widget really depends on the requirements of the widget, what the user interface would look like, what's the back end logic that needs to happen. But as an
Yeah,
example,
there would be
that's
some.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
there would be
that's
some external authentication or like third-party data being provided from an external application and showing into a 3D dashboard. So there would be some more specific time required to take back that data to configure some web services on the either side and then pull them data back to the system.
Yep. So for example, the simple part number generator widget we created was done in a matter of days. I mean, obviously that is a simple
Yeah.
example, but something we did
Yes.
fairly simple. So the next question is, can both on-prem and cloud users create widgets? Do you want to start off with that, Ashwani?
Yeah, so on-premise, as I told you, is completely customization and the authority is for the on-cloud. There, I think that most of the things cannot be customized because there are some restrictions. And for the on-cloud widgets, you can use some OTP web services provided by the DS, and we can leverage that and use them in our widgets or the dashboard.
Yep.
But the only limitation would be customization won't be possible. The existing web services can be utilized and
Yep.
UI can be customized.
So to elaborate that a little bit more, obviously for on-premise, really, well, I should take a step back and say, out of the box widgets that come out of the box, from Dassault systems cannot be customized today, though events like a add, update, delete, change state, promote may be able to fire back-end logic, but that's a work in progress. But you cannot customize the UI or behaviors of out-of-the-box widgets today, both for on-premise and on cloud. But on premise, you can definitely create your own widgets and do whatever you want. For on cloud, it's more restrictive. There it goes back and forth whether you can actually create an on cloud widget today. We created a very simple one for cloud, but then we heard functionality is changing. But even if you were to create an on cloud widget, the widget code still needs to be hosted in a customer server. It can't be hosted in the
Yeah.
Dassault cloud server. So there's still a little bit of what I'll say on-premise to a on-cloud widget, but it's still a work in progress from the Dassault side. How much customization or creation of on-cloud widgets you can do. Okay. Does DS provide standards for developing widgets, or are customers on their own to set those? So as we shown in the presentation, there is documentation from Dassault. There's some basic examples. It's a good start, but I would say, it's not perfect. There's still a lot of probably experimenting you need to do. So,
Yeah.
so the answer I'd say is, there's some information and standards and documentation of what to do, but
Not
it
complete.
probably could be improved as well in our opinion, but we've been able to, per what is provided by Dassault, figure it out and obviously develop widgets. Ashwan, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was trying to add that they are still in progress, agree, as well as the widgets, some material would be there, some they would have basically given you tags, proxies, and some references would be there. But using those references, it would be very difficult to use them directly. They are just not like the Java APIs what we have in the 3D space. So there are some challenges, and building those challenges would be a task, I would say.
Okay, next question. Can you provide some details on the data exchange logic written in the code? Can you show how JPOs are called specifically in using REST services?
So
So
currently I don't have that screen with me with the REST web services, but REST web services can be easily written in your Eclipse ID or the any ID what the guys prefer, and you can export a jar file. The jar file can be kept in your 3D space library wherever we keep our standard jar files, and then the URL would be accessible. That URL can be used in your JavaScript framework. Like I would have, I don't have the code readily available here, but there would be an URL being hitting toward our web service, and web service be returning JSON response. In the later stage, we pass that JSON response and show it to the UI. That's how we build it.
Yep. So obviously that's a fairly technical question and technical answer, but definitely we can follow up offline for a more detailed
Yeah,
answer.
yeah,
But
yeah,
per REST web services and JPOs, and there's also a lot of discussion whether it should be a JPO or a web service, and it also affects on-premise or on cloud, how to best do it. But we can follow up more,
yeah.
technically
Yes,
offline.
sure, Mark.
Next question, and this we may need further explanation, but is there any limit on the size of data we can load? If, for example, 3D designs, for example. So, if we wanted to, I guess, load complex data or even CAD data or graphical data, is there any limit on the size?
I
That
don't think there would be a limit, and specifically, we even do not find anything mentioned of this kind in the documentation provided by DES. And we might not have occurred in scenario we would try to load in heavy data, but files loading and all would easily happen. And as we know, 3D space would store 3D FCS server would store your files, or 3D CAD will be stored. I don't think there would be a data limit.
So we've done a proof of concept, which is still in work, where we've actually loaded data through a widget where you can point the widget to a data source and it can upload and load files. And it was a more of an on-premise solution, but we had no data size issues with that. One thing, would be if you are transferring a lot of data, and this is, more of a server configuration, you may need to tweak your Apache or Tommy server timeouts and other parameters to make sure that your connections stay valid per the time it takes to load or exchange that data. So that looks like all the questions for now. Obviously, if anyone has any follow-up questions or comments, we would love to hear your input. Please let us know. But with that, thank you very much for attending the webinar, and we will be happy to provide additional webinars on this topic as we work more with widgets as well, and would love to hear your feedback on the webinar or other topics you may be interested in. But once again, you can see our contact information on the screen. Please reach out to us for any comments, questions, or any PLM, PDM needs you may have. But with that, thank you very much, and we will end the webinar.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining.